Hello everyone and welcome back to Sudden Wealth. I hope you guys are doing very well. If you do enjoy the content, please consider dropping that like and subscribe. As you guys know, it's the only thing that I ask. So today I have a very exciting video to you. I was listening to Raoul Paul's video yesterday and today, and I highly recommend that you go to his channel and you do listen to his and his colleagues' analysis, which I think it's quite telling, and it goes in hand with some of my expectations, but it does provide a more clear explanation towards what you already could feel within this cycle. And I thought that that was brilliant, so I highly recommend that you do that. Now let's take something out of the way. TLT is pretty much close to $89, a bit stronger. Stocks are going down a little bit. Once again, as we've discussed many times, stock market has done nothing but go up. Things have basically, since the April lows, been straight shooting to the upside. So we will have some breathers, we will have some corrections. If you recall some of my videos around August, I was indeed expecting a level of correction around mid-September to late September, so we are pretty much in the middle of it. Was today the bottom? I don't know. Is it going to be tomorrow the bottom? Is it going to be in a week from now bottom? I don't know. Those very short-term things are very hard to predict. However, I do believe, also listening to Raoul Paul, that there's a clear explanation for the delay that we've been experiencing in this cycle. So, as I've told you before, to me, what matters the most is the fundamentals. So I'm talking now about the crypto cycle. And this is actually one of the videos where I'm most excited because I'm actually quite at ease, at peace, let's say, very tranquil, very relaxed with the whole cycle. As I've said before, it's good to make predictions, or it's funny to make predictions when it comes to timing of events, when you expect certain conditions to be in place. What you cannot forget is, in my opinion, now I'm going to tell you my pure opinion. So if you disagree, feel free to disregard everything that I've said. I'm just providing my opinion. We can make guesses and predictions on timing of events. So, I don't know, by October 2026, this and the other will happen. By November 2024, this and I mean, we can make these kind of things. It's funny, it passes the time, it's amusing, it creates some level of entertainment. That's all fine. What you need to understand is what dictates your prediction. That's the key. So are you guiding your prediction because you want to come to YouTube or Twitter and say, I was right? Or are you guiding your expectation based on fundamentals that you're looking for? In other words, do you care that it's May 2026? Or do you care that liquidity has peaked, the business cycle has peaked, the Ethereum grid is at max grid, and Coinbase download app is number one in the Google and Apple Store? Those are the questions you have to ask. In my view, the fundamentals will dictate where I believe we are in the cycle. Now, if you recall, let's go back a year now, what was the expectation of the majority of people? So there were a lot of surveys going around. You may recall this on X. There were many surveys thinking, is this a left translated cycle? Is this a normal 40-year cycle? Or is this a right translated cycle? And for a long time, the left translated cycle was the consensus. Obviously, that didn't happen because Bitcoin and Ethereum, etc., have made new all-time highs this year. So that didn't work. So what was the next consensus? Oh, it's going to be a 4-year cycle. What has been the least consensus approach? It's going to be a right translated cycle. There has been the least consensus of them all throughout this whole period. Okay, so that's a good indicator, as in terms of sentiment, since we all know, me and you and everyone listening, that the crowd is always wrong. Now, here is the key, and this is something that I've missed, and apparently Raoul missed it as well, is we understand that liquidity is the major factor, and liquidity is heavily linked towards the business cycle. That means the ISM, which is now 48 point something percent, it peaks at high 50s, 58, 60, etc. So when liquidity and the business cycle peak, crypto peaks 1 or 2 months later. So basically last cycle, for example, liquidity and business cycle peaked in March 2021. Bitcoin peaked in May 2021. And then there was a massive effort in terms of leverage in the system to make a tiny new all-time high in November 2021. But if you think about it, a lot of coins peaked in May 2021 and they did not peak in November 2021. Some did. So some came and peaked in November 2021, but a lot of them actually had their peak in May. And most of them, even if they made a new all-time high in November, was a very small all-time high, like 10% higher or something, nothing really crazy. Now, basically, so what happened was business cycle peaked, liquidity peaked. We had a massive correction in the summer of 2021. I think Bitcoin went from 65 to 29K. And then we made 69K, a slight new all-time high. And then we had the bear market that everyone is aware. Now, here is the key. Here is the question. Why a 4-year cycle? Why does liquidity peak and business cycle peak every 4 years since 2008? So let's go back to 2008. What happened? 2008, 2009, collateral is losing value faster than people can explain. We are starting to enter a deflationary spiral, which would cause us to be in a worse situation than 1929. So the government and the central banks step in and they say, we are going to debase the currency 8 to 10% per year to prevent this deflationary event to happen. What does that mean? That means that you don't understand why the houses are going up in price every single year, 8% per year, or depending on the region, more or less. And you don't understand why stocks are getting more expensive, why assets are getting more expensive. Why is it more expensive to run new investments? And what happened is, as the interest rates get pushed down to zero, the governments start to have funding cycles of around 4 years. So what that means is the large maturities of the government debt start to be a little bit under 4 years. That's why the 4-year cycle is a little bit under 4 years. So that's why it peaked in December and then in November, etc., etc. So basically the reason why we had a 4-year cycle is because the debt refinancing was happening every 4 years. So basically what it means is, because the government has to roll over a huge amount of debt, they need the interest rates to be low, and they need to issue a lot of debt, new debt into the market, which means it pushes the number of dollars. What is debt? Debt is future dollars, future euros, etc. into the market. Liquidity explodes. Once that is done, we have a normal relaxation of liquidity. So you see the liquidity, the global M2 coming down, which drags down asset prices. So think 2018 was not just crypto, also stocks had a terrible Q4, for example. 2014-15 was not a good year as well for stocks for the majority of the year, etc. Now, what happened? In 2021, and this is the part that I missed, and this is the part that actually everybody missed, we had an issue. Rates were so low at the time, and some of the inflation fears were already creeping up. If you actually check the maturity of those typical debt rollovers that the government does every 4 years. So what I'm trying to say, this is very important to understand. Everyone talks about the 4-year cycle for crypto and Bitcoin. Nobody tells you why 4 years. Why 4 years? Why not 3 years? Why not 6? Why not 7? Why not 1? Why not 9? Why 4? Because that's the rate that the government was refinancing its debt, rolling it over. Basically, huge amounts of debt were maturing and they were rolling it over, so they needed low interest rates and then they needed liquidity to the max. And they themselves are pushing out liquidity as well. 2021, this changed and nobody paid attention, including myself. The maturity of this huge amount of debt stopped being a little bit less than 4 years and started to be, on average, so these has different maturities, but on average, 5.4 years. That pushes us into 2026. So this is why, because I was thinking, why does this cycle, that is obviously been different so far, why does it feel like another 2024? What was 2024? Started well, sell-off, correction, sideways, very boring. Goes up, sell-off, correction, sideways, very boring. And then Q4 was obviously very, very strong. So it feels like we are repeating last year. And I was thinking, but why are we repeating? Is this what has happened? Am I missing some fundamentals that I didn't pay any attention? And yesterday I was listening to Raoul, and he himself also missed it. That the average, because this is very important. The reason for the 4-year cycle, that I was also aware of it, was the period of rollover and refinancing of government debt, which was 4 years. That's why the crypto cycle was 4 years. But in 2021, it moved to 5.4 years. And to be honest, nobody that I've seen paid any attention to it. So that's why I'm convinced that there's a very good chance that we're going to go into 2026 and probably quite decently late in 2026. Maybe late Q2, Q3. What we need, what I'm looking for is the same that I was looking for before. I'm looking for, is liquidity keep on pushing higher and faster, not just higher and faster, one. Is the business cycle close to the high 50s or even 60? If that's the case, we are very close to a top. And then you have other stuff, right? Is the fear and greed at extreme greed? Is people going crazy? Are things completely absurd happening, like pictures of monkeys for $1 million? This kind of stuff. Now, we know the drill on how these things work. But here is the good news and the bad news. So the bad news seems that it's inevitable that the cycle will last longer. So that's number one, that's a bad news. Good news is that the fact that it is going to last longer, there's a very good probability that it's going to last longer. The prices will probably be substantially higher than people expect, because that's how Bitcoin moves in a logarithm scale, not in a linear scale. Meaning that if you give more time to coil up, the prices can really be substantially above what people expect. So, what can make me wrong? That's a good question. How can I be wrong? Because I have to think about it. Now, the point to me is this: how comfortable I am that what I've just described is going to play out. Let's say I'm 60% confident. Then, this is a good lesson in risk management. If crypto jumps a lot in Q4 of this year, I may take out 20-30% of my position. For just in case that I'm wrong and we don't go into 2026. What else would make me wrong? If business cycle, liquidity, everything explodes in Q4 and Bitcoin is 300K or 250K or whatever, by December, there's a very good chance that that's the peak. That we just go all at once very, very quick and we do everything we were supposed to do a little bit with a little bit of a time horizon. We do it all compressed in a short number of months. Possible. Possible that can happen. Is it likely? I don't think so. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I cannot say, I guarantee that. No way. Anybody that does it is essentially scamming you. That's what they're doing. But how will I know that I'm right? Or there's a good chance that I'm right. If October and November 2025, meaning October, November, and let's say partially December 2025, when I make it simple, call it Q4 2025 in general, needs to be very good. And I can already see a correction coming or starting at the end of the year, as the 4-year cyclers believe that this is it. We had a huge move. Bitcoin topped, is finished. We're now going to sell off and have the bear market. And full disclosure, maybe we will. Or maybe we will have a correction, let's say until March, and we go one more time for the second part of the bubble, which is very violent, and it catches all the 4-year cyclers off guard. That's also probability. Now the question becomes this: which one is the more likely one? Or there's a third option: the top is already in, and we're just going to go down from here. That's the third option. In my view, the probability of the top is in and it's it, we're finished, it's less than 5% for me. Maybe for you it's 40%. I don't know. For me, it's less than 5. To me, I feel much more relaxed today. First of all, like I see people panicking about Bitcoin and Ethereum selling off. I've been saying that I do expect the correction mid to late September. Mid to late September, here we are. What's the big deal? There's no big deal. I was talking about this in late July. There's nothing special about it. And very importantly, we are going to be in fear tonight. Tomorrow, when the coin market cap refreshes, if you will, for the day, we're going to be in fear. Probably quite low in fear, which is good. Because bull markets don't peak in fear or in neutral or even in slight greed. They peak in 88, 90, 92, 95 extreme greed. So these are the good news and the bad news from my perspective. Bad news, the cycle will last longer. So be it. I'm not in a rush. I make very good money with my job. I love my job. I love working. I have no problem with that sense. I can wait another 9-12 months. Easy, no problem. Or even 8 months or 6 months. I mean, who knows? Something around that life. Again, what am I looking for? What is liquidity doing? Is it going up and accelerating? And is the business cycle going into the 50, 55, 53, 60s, etc.? That's what I'm looking for. That's the key for the analysis. All the rest is short-term noise. Oh, this week is down, that week is down. Yeah, sure. And then that week is up. Who knows? I'm going to have a very good clue in October, November 2025. Because those months in particular should be fairly strong. Now, I can already imagine. If on the 1st of October, Bitcoin is down, you said it's going to be amazing. I'm not saying every single day of the month. So let me put that very clear. That's not what I'm expecting. But I'm expecting some very strong October, November 2025 months. And that will give us a good idea. Where would I be concerned? I would be concerned if ISM is going up, business cycles going up, liquidity is going up and accelerating, and crypto keeps on falling for extended periods of time. Then I'm concerned. Apart from that, not really. And I'm really pissed because I really did miss this. Because usually I'm very well informed in these things. Because I know exactly why the crypto cycle is 4 years. It's because it matches the liquidity cycle, and the liquidity cycle and business cycle exist the way they exist because of the refinancing and rollover of government debt. And in 2021, they changed the maturity from 4 years to 5.4 years, which pushes us naturally into May 2020, into around the middle of 2026. So that part I missed. Always learning, always chilled. Again, maybe that analysis is wrong. Maybe that has zero impact on anything. But the indicators will tell me. The liquidity and the business cycle will tell me if I'm on the right path or not. Now, let me say this again. This is my analysis. This is my perspective. This is my view. Should you follow me? No. That's not the point of this channel. I've told you 1,000 times. I'm not a guru. I don't sell you things. I don't try to convince you to buy things from me. This is purely my thought process. And maybe I'm going to be completely wrong, and this video will age terribly wrong, and you can mock me forever on YouTube and say, what an idiot this mother effer is. And with that, thank you very much for your support, guys. Don't forget, like and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. And as you guys know, it's the only thing that I ask.